Hey everyone, welcome back to Rob's Daily Classics. I found this beautiful 1972 Datsun 240Z outside of Philadelphia. He's asking $24,000. 72 is a great year, so let's go check this nice car out. Photos aren't the best, but I found this 72 Nissan Datsun 240Z. I believe it to be real, which we'll talk about the price in a little while. The seller goes, excellent condition, runs and drives great, 4-speed manual transmission. Odometer reads 66,360 miles, 1,850 miles on a completely rebuilt engine. And this is the only thing that bothers me a little bit about the car. It was recently repainted white, which was the original color was the lime green. Nice driver or take it to the next level. So when someone says it's a nice driver and you look underneath and you can see like this, suspension and all that is all original, so to speak. It wasn't restored. Tons of a lot of parts, which is not a bad thing. New clutch, carburetor is rebuilt, no cracks in the dash, which is cool. Everything works except the clock. Comes with all the parts and manuals and the pictures. So, it's not a bad car. $24,000. We'll talk a little bit about that when we get into some bring a trailer prices. But he's probably in the ballpark, probably worth about $18,000, and that's the gap, 18 to 24. Originality, condition, and price. It looks to be very original except for the paintwork. Condition looks to be very nice, but we have to get into the body work and the panels to make sure there's no Bondo in there. And the price appears to be near where it should be, but I'm thinking under 20 on this car, and we'll talk about that in a little while. But the Datsun 240Z, when it came to this country in 1970, it ran from 1970 to 1978. Its last iteration was the 280Z, and the nomenclature on the car changed as the straight inline 6-cylinder engine increased in liter size. So it first came out with the 2.4 liter, so to speak, 240Z. It was called the Nissan Fair Lady in Japan. A lot of people are putting the badges on these cars now called the Fair Lady. I like the Datsun 240Z badging is fine. Four-wheel independent suspension, which was cool. Had that powerful inline 6-cylinder engine with overhead cam. It was relatively a good price back then when you think about it, because when you compare the price of this car with the European coupes at the same time from Jaguar, BMW, Porsche, and even Alfa Romeo, this car was a much better buy, at the time. And they were everywhere. People drove these cars and parked them in the streets and commuted in them. They were just a sports car. And, we started getting familiar with the hatchbacks with cars like the Chevy Vega and all that. And now we started getting familiar to see hatchbacks on cars. Prior to that, the MGB GT or the Spitfire TR6, had that little hatchback trunk. So we started getting more accustomed to seeing the 3-door versions of cars. And it was pretty cool. The car is very likable as far as the design goes. And so what we saw then is that in 74, the car became the 240Z with a 2.6 liter engine. And then also in 74, they came out with the 2+2 model, and it had a longer wheelbase. But that kind of took away the original appearance of the car and why this car was out there in the first place, to be a nimble type sports car, to be lightweight and things like that. So I'm not a big fan of the 2+2 in any of the Z series cars, but that's just a preference, And then in 75, the 280Z came out, which was the 2.8 liter. And, by that time, emissions and bumpers, the car got heavier. And, 72 for me is like, even with domestic cars, it's the last model year of, leave me alone, let me be what I originally intended to be. So not too much emissions, no bumper standards in 72. But by 73, things started changing, right? So we started seeing the bigger bumpers in 73 in the front end. And from there on in, cars became a little uglier than they were originally intended to be. So Paul Newman raced this car. That was pretty cool. He got together with Bob Shop Racing in Wilton, Connecticut. Paul lived in Westport, Connecticut, and he became friends with Bob Shop and really made the 240Z an item up in Lime Rock Park and, SEC racing and things like that. So the car became immediately identifiable as being a racing car, as did the Nissan, or the Datsun 510 at the time, the 510 coupe. had independent suspension too, which was pretty cool. So that just had a 4-cylinder engine, but the 510 and the 240Z really put Datsun on the map when it comes to being a car that can be campaigned and raced. So great job by the Japanese on this car. I like it a lot. And as far as the price goes, $24,000. When you think about a Nissan, let's say a Celica at the time, a Toyota Celica GT, they're going up to $35,000 on Bring a Trailer, $30,000. So I think this car has more pedigree of being a racing type car than a Celica GT. Celica GT just having a 4-cylinder engine, this having an inline 6. So when you think about $24,000 for this car, it appears to be a little bit money. But what troubles me about this car is that it was recently repainted. So we need to know why it was repainted other than a preference of color. We need to know how the quality of the repaint, and we need to know the condition of the body panels and all that. And when you look at the undercarriage of the car, it looks to be very original on the undercarriage. Somebody might have painted this silver at one time. But that one photo here shows me that the car was not restored on the undercarriage. So you're going to have to get underneath this car eventually and change bushings and change shocks and muffler systems and things like that, and maybe tear apart the rear end and change the oil and things like that, to get, if you really want to get into this car and really take it to this next level. As he suggests in the ad, he says, drive it as is or take it to the next level. So the seller's being very upfront with us. But he's asking the price that he's asking for when you go into Bring a Trailer. Bring a Trailer, they look like they're all in that. Well, here's one, $29,000, $22,000, $23,000. But when I looked at these cars on Bring a Trailer for $23,000, for $22,000 and things like that, they seem to be more original cars, not repainted cars. So because the car was repainted, I think he kind of diminishes the value a bit. But I'm in that $18,000 range on this car, and he's not. So somehow we need to come to the meeting of the minds and figure out how we can buy this car. So, but it's definitely worth looking at. It's definitely worth diving in. The person seems to be an enthusiast when he's keeping all these spares that he has. And because parts are so expensive now, even with tariffs coming, to have a starter and have an alternator and things like that you can rebuild and work on yourself. There's definitely value in some of these spares that he's giving us, all these badges and things like that. But this probably came when he repainted the car, so he probably added new badges on the car when he repainted the car and things like that. But yeah, overall, I give this car nice grades overall, but just a little bit high on the prices, and we got to dive into the condition of this car before the repaint. And if he has, did the engine and things like that, if he is the owner of the car, I'm sure he has photographs and things like that to support what he's done. And it might be a very, very enjoyable experience meeting the seller, and he might be very legit as well. So, but you don't know until you make your first inquiry. You always have to be careful, right? So that's it. A nice car to look at, a 1972 Datsun 240Z, remembering that Toyota Celica GTs are going for $30,000 right now. This car doesn't appear to be too far away from where its price point should be, but yeah, that's it. If you're not already a subscriber on Daily Classics, hit that button, subscribe. We'd love to see you. Please pass along these videos to friends that love cars, and if you enjoy the video, give us a thumbs up, and we appreciate that as well. I'll attach another good video on some other 240s that we found, or 280s, and for you to watch. And thanks very much. Enjoy the day, and we'll see you back here.